Isn't Congress somewhat at the mercy of the administration, though, in what you're describing? I mean, you've called for a Department of Justice investigation into that Peruvian plane shoot down, but it's kind of up to the Department of Justice. Have you heard anything, for instance, on what they're going to do with that? Have you heard anything about the declassification of more of that IG report? But even in those cases, though, it still seems that it's at the discretion of the administration unless Congress changes something in another way.
It is at a lot of that is at the discretion of the administration. Congress has to get better at using the levers that it has at its disposal. Restricting access to certain funds or certain expenditures through the appropriations process and saying, you're not going to have access to this money until you do these things. In this case, it may be the declassification of certain documents. We've on this Peruvian Air Force shoot down of the missionary pilot, we've now, now we've passed the point of statute of limitations. There will be no prosecutions in that case. I can't tell you how extremely disappointed and really angry I am about how the community has handled this. Innocent Americans died because of what appears to be sloppy work by the CIA. And I am afraid that no one will be held accountable because the CIA and the leadership of the CIA did a slow roll on this, and they waited out the process, and it is very, very unfortunate. And, like I said, I'm mad, but you're right. I'm not sure exactly what I can do about it at this point.
Congressman, if I could return to to an element of the interrogation question. As Tim mentioned, the International Convention Against Torture that the United States is a signatory to and, has always sort of been a proud party of, has always kind of denounced other countries for torture. That requires that countries where there is a credible allegation of torture conduct a criminal investigation and prosecute those who are responsible if the allegations are found to be credible. Do you see some loophole there now that we have the details of the treatment, 266 waterboardings against 2 guys and slamming people against walls and so on? I would assume that would be considered credible allegations of torture. Do you think that we now have to conduct that investigation?
Well, I don't think you can assume that those are credible allegations of torture. That's why those legal memos were released last week, because the legal opinion said that those were not considered torture. And, again, you have to read the memos in detail, and you know very well that these people were not slammed against a brick wall or anything like that. These were forced, these were walls that were very flexible walls. They gave off a loud noise, but when pushed against them, the walls gave away. And so, there was a long discussion within the administration, and there was a discussion, I believe, and we will get the details, and I hope these details will be released in public, that when this information was reviewed by members of Congress, Republicans and Democrats, that they agreed that these things were not torture. And so, I think the assumption that you made is not a fair assumption.
Well, I'm not offering my own opinion. The president, the vice president, the attorney general, and the CIA director have all said they believe waterboarding is torture, and the CIA has said 3 people were waterboarded.
That is correct. In the last administration, and the legal memos and these types of things said that they believed in the specific way that the waterboarding was performed was not torture. Now that happened, I was not briefed on those practices or the techniques because those things were done well before I became chairman of the Intelligence Committee. I think we will probably go through and have a more detailed discussion trying to iron out the differences, interpretations of some of these techniques of the prior administration versus how the current administration is viewing what happened.
Question for you, Congressman, about Afghanistan. You had said when the president put forward his new plan that you thought NATO needed to get more involved. I'm wondering, hasn't that always been the idea that NATO should be more involved? And how can the president possibly get countries where there's some political resistance in those countries? How can the president get those NATO allies to come on board?
Well, obviously, the president's recent trip to Europe, the president's address to Central and South America, he's demonstrating or trying to demonstrate a new tone and a new style of American diplomacy that is designed to win over the public opinion in these countries and to have them have a more positive opinion of the United States. This is one of his, one of the fundamental tenets of his foreign diplomacy, that he will have and create a new image for America abroad that will, improve the public perception of America and will make it easier for these countries to participate in what is going on in Afghanistan and other efforts around the world. So that is how the president has said he is going to change the current or the past reality and to get our allies into a position where they can effectively be more helpful to the United States of America. So that's the president's goal. The president has said he wants to get NATO involved, and the president believes that he is in a position to change the public opinion and to have them be more involved.
It sounds like you're convinced that his new approach is going to work.
No, I'm not convinced it's going to work. I hope it does work because these are very, very serious issues. They threaten Europe. They threaten the United States. And, I would like nothing better that, number one, our allies step up more forcefully and in a more meaningful way to help us in Afghanistan and in these other areas where we face threats. And then once we are there, that we work effectively as a unit to achieve our strategic objectives. We all want the same thing. We want to be successful in defeating and containing and defeating this threat. I hope he is successful. Absolutely.
Congressman, real quick before we let you go, I want to go to Thursday's Wall Street Journal piece that you wrote, your opinion piece, where you say that you want a list of the dates, locations, and names of all members of Congress who attended briefings on enhanced interrogation techniques. What will you do with that information?
Well, I think I would hope that we would get it in a format that the information would be public. I think members of Congress need to be held accountable. It's so easy for members of Congress to point fingers at the administration, to point fingers at the CIA or other people in the intelligence community and say, look what they did. But I think we'll also find out that in many of these cases where Congress is pointing its fingers different places, that members of Congress will have had the information, will have reviewed it, and in one form or another may have approved of the techniques that other members of Congress now are expressing outrage over.
Congressman Peter Hoekstra, Ranking Republican on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, thank you for being this week's Newsmakers.
Hey, great. Thank you.